The One Straw Revolution by Masanobu Fukuoka. Introduction. It was 1970, and the extent to which our species, supposedly the most intelligent, had failed as steward of the planet had only just begun to sink in on me. At age 26, in my first big aha moment, I was struck by the realization that we humans had actively created the food scarcity we claim to fear. We were, and still are, feeding more than a third of the world's grain to livestock, which returned to us only a fraction of those nutrients. I was seized with curiosity. Why would any species disrupt the very source of its own nourishment, its very survival? The next year, I published Diet for a Small Planet. Could food, I wondered in that book and in subsequent writings, be humanity's pathway to sanity? Not many years later, Masanobu Fukuoka's volume, Now in Your Hands, swept across the West. It spoke directly to many who had come of age in the 60s and who were now eager to move beyond protest to practical solutions. I was one. True, we'd not yet heard of global climate change, and certainly the end of oil seemed imponderably far off. But the dangers of chemical farming were becoming evident to many. We wanted to believe there was another way to nourish ourselves. The One Straw Revolution we received as an empowering testament to one person's courage to reject the common wisdom that laboratory, narrow, profit-driven science was the salvation of farming. Instead, Fukuoka taught that the best methods of food cultivation are those aligned with nature, which on a practical level means minimal soil disruption, no tilling or weeding, no application of chemicals, be they fertilizers or pesticides. Back then, the book fortified a budding movement of back to the landers, but today its message is vastly more pertinent. For while the movement to align farming with nature is burgeoning and has spawned various systems, or generally referred to as organic, still dominant and spreading globally is the destructive track. It gains strength from the corporate propagated argument that without massive petrochemicals and soil disruption, we will certainly starve. As a result, pesticide use per acre has quadrupled since my youth, and larger scale, fossil fuel, corporate monopoly-dependent farming communities continue to displace traditional practices worldwide. Today, the dangers of petrochemical agriculture are widely known, and about 2/3 of Americans said they've tried organic food. Even so, the myth remains that organically raised produce is inevitably more expensive than food produced with the benefit of chemicals, and must therefore be a luxury, impractical for the masses. Even many who are deeply engaged in sustainability movements refer to the idea of lack, or of doing without in order to save the environment. Fukuoka, by contrast, encourages us to trust nature's bounty. In The One Straw Revolution, he describes how his yields rival those of neighbouring farms that use the dominant technologies of the day. And in recent years, this experience has been widely validated. It is estimated that low or no-till practices are currently being used to farm 250 million acres of land worldwide. And in 2007, a University of Michigan study projected that the overall food availability could increase by about half if the whole world moved to ecologically sane farming. The assumption that confronting scarcity is an immutable fact of human existence, I believe, has led to the paradox we see today. Life-stunting overwork and deprivation for the majority, alongside life-stunting overwork and surfeit for the minority. So Fukuoka's message is more deeply radical than simply encouraging farmers to forego tilling or spraying. core of our understanding of ourselves and our place on this earth. He assures us that as we come to experience nature's patterns, we can let go of our fear of scarcity. While Fukuoka does have his list of do-nots, the one-straw revolution is ultimately about having more, not less. Nature can do the work we have unnecessarily taken on ourselves. So what Fukuoka terms natural farming is less labour-intensive. Successful farming is about realising more leisure in which to experience the richest of relationships, about living in ways that are gentle and easy. We can enjoy sitting back and even being lazy, writes Fukuoka. To make his point, he tells of visiting ancient temples in which Japanese farmers of a bygone era left haiku that composed during their 3 months of winter leisure. Today, he notes, 3 months of leisure have shrunk to days. There is no time to write poetry. Fukuoka tells us that truly successful agriculture requires not so much arduous labour as awareness, observation, connection, and persistence. Today's agribusiness companies lure farmers to their products by promising that applying them to their fields according to fixed prescribed schedules, without much thought about their unique circumstances, farmers can be sure of reliable profits. This might be termed know-nothing farming, very different from Fukuoka's do-nothing farming, which calls on farmers to question conventional practices that may be needless or even harmful. He advocates a curiosity, openness, and willingness to fail, so that we can learn to trust. His is not simple farming, but more complex, aligned farming. Fukuoka also implies that our fixation on control over nature has led us to assume visual order. The straight, weeded rows of uniform fields is superior farming. If something appears random, we assume it's wrong. It doesn't match our learned aesthetic. But as we come to experience nature as complex patterns of relationships of which we ourselves are part, patterns having nothing to do with the human, visually ordered world, he suggests that we can come to see beneath appearances. Might we, like Fukuoka, find beauty in what we have before perceived as distressingly random and untidy? In a 1982 interview with Mother Earth News, Fukuoka said that the real path to natural farming requires that a person knows what unadulterated nature is, so that he or she can instinctively understand what needs to be done and what must not be done to work in harmony with its processes. So my wish is that the reissue and rediscovery of this little, hopeful, almost playful book will help us in the 21st century shed our fear of lack. Fear that has fueled the drive for control over nature through formulaic answers. My wish is that Fukuoka's insights live on, perhaps more potent now, as part of an ecology of liberation, not only of the earth, but of our fear-clutched psyches as well. By Francis Moore Lappe.